Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm James Giglio with MVP Interactive. I'm here with another session, mentor session. I hope your summer is going well. We are officially in the dog days of summer, as they say, but happy to be here again today, and so we'll get started. So the first question comes in from Carrington Crothers. He asks, how could I make a loyalty program effective for my business? A little background on the question. He owns a photography agency focusing on creating unique and creative product imagery for clients to use digitally to increase online sales. I have been unsuccessful over the past year or so to figure out a subscription model that would help bring in more clients and revenue on a retainer or additionally monthly income basis. I was wondering if a loyalty program where people can earn points and get rewards to excite them and spark more recurring bookings. I would love to hear your ideas on whether a loyalty program like this would be good for my business, or what other options would you look at in order for me to create retainer clients as opposed to one-off bookings? Thanks so much. So, although I haven't had much experience in traditional loyalty programs, I am a big believer of creating incentivized programs, right? And so, and that could look in different forms, whether it's loyalty or referral-based businesses, but you know, I generally believe in these loyalty programs as a way to, you know, really add value to your customer base that can not only benefit from your service or product, but also help evangelize the quality of your work from a referral standpoint. So again, I haven't had much experience in traditional loyalty programming, but we have offered referral discounts or referral programming that allowed our current clients to benefit in some type of discount, whether it's consultation, actual product, or actual service. So in theory, I think it's a good business strategy. I just couldn't recommend a particular avenue or a service or a platform based on my limited success. And so I think one thing to consider, however, prior to getting into these loyalty programs is you don't want to shortchange yourself in terms of investing or devaluing the work that you provide. And so I think it's strategic that you can kind of evaluate what kind of reward program you would have that wouldn't necessarily impact your bottom line negatively or where you would be losing money when engaging into this loyalty program. So unfortunately, that's really the best advice I can give. I don't have too much practical experience in that programming, but I hope that helps. But I do believe in theory, you know, the incentivized nature of referrals or loyalty programs. I'm just not a direct business to consumer company that would leverage that type of program. All right, number 2 question from Carrington here is, how would you try to sell and upsell multiple services to one client? We know his background with the photography studio. So one of the strategies that has tended to really work well for us is really giving the opportunity and the option to the buyer that you're selling, and you can do that in a tiered system. So we deal with a lot of advertising agencies or big marketing agencies, and one of the asks that we tend to get and we've gotten accustomed to is to create a good, better, and best offering. And what that means is each level of service or product in each of those tranches would represent a product and a cost perspective, right? And so, the good is obviously it's going to be a good programming or a good activation, and it's going to warrant X amount of price. Then you have the option for tier 2 or tier 3. And so the interesting thing that we've noticed from a buyer psychology standpoint is when you put the responsibility on the buyer to make the choice, rather than you specifically trying to sell or upsell the specific product or service, there's an interesting psychology where they start to compete and negotiate against themselves, right? Because initially, everyone wants the lowest price for something, right? That's just human nature. But when you give the options, think of the car wash, right? It's always bronze, silver, and gold, right? And then you look at the lists of what's on the gold, and you see all these different things that you feel like you may need, but maybe you really don't need them. But there's the psychology of, why don't I do the upper tier? And so, as a salesperson, your job isn't really to convince, right? It's to serve a need, right? And so when you put that responsibility on the potential buyer, a really interesting thing happens is, in many times, they make the decision that benefits you as well, because they choose the higher or the more expensive priced option. So I think maybe when you're looking at your services, to kind of tranche out a rate card that you can get creative from a marketing perspective on how you call these good, better, or best options, but really make that the buyer's decision, and don't try to influence it one way or the other. I mean, you can figure out their needs and then have them make that decision. And it's pretty interesting, based on our experience, on what we see when a client comes in with thinking that they have one budget, but then they see the options for what could be, they'll find the money. It's really interesting. And so I love when that happens, and I'm a big believer in having these multi-tiered systems. So I would definitely look into that, and you can get fun and creative with how you market it as well. All right, next question is coming in from Brad Letchworth. The questions he asked is, how do you know when it's the right time to leave your full-time job and go all in on your business? A little bit of background on Brad. He's currently a full-time firefighter and a paramedic for a local municipality, and over 13 years of service, invested with 12 more for retirement. Interesting. The climate has changed drastically, and although I never dreamed I would even consider leaving the fire service, I find myself struggling to find a reason to stay. My business has been growing slowly over the last several years, but it's not at the point where I feel comfortable leaving the guaranteed income of my fire job. However, I'm totally burned out and I'm ready to leave. It's the fear that's holding me back, and the lure of guaranteed income and benefits that keeps me there. So how do you know when it's the right time, when I should make the leap? Well, sounds like you're at an impasse, obviously, with your career, and I think many of us have experienced that. On one hand, there's no time like the present to really take the leap of faith and make it your effort to go full-time on your business. But on the other hand, I certainly understand the practical nature of having 13 years of service and then another decade or so before you get retirement and all those benefits. But I'm not going to influence that decision one way or the other. That has to come from you. But I think from an emotional side or a drive side, I would discourage anyone not to start a business unless it is your number one obsession, passion, drive, and devoutness that you have in the belief in the success of what you're going to be able to create in your business. And I think it's that irrational confidence of knowing that you're going to do this and it's going to be successful is that personal drive, at least for me, that gave me the courage to really take the leap forward in starting my business, where I was obsessive about it. And there was nothing that anyone could tell me to dissuade me into thinking that this wasn't a good idea or that I shouldn't try it. Now, you can easily talk yourself out of anything, right? And you'll never feel prepared. I mean, I always equate people that have newborns, they'll never feel prepared of having a baby, but when the baby comes, you figure it out. You figure it out quick. And, I think business is very similar in that sense that, the good thing is you're here, you have mentorship, you have the resources to really learn. But from that personal fire, sorry for the pun, that personal desire to really believe in yourself, believe in your business, and to know that you're going to take this. There's no guarantees, but there's nothing going to stop you or anyone that's going to stop you that this isn't a good idea or a good business. And I think that emotional side, you really have to be honest with yourself. And if you don't have that, the idea of entrepreneurship is much better than the actual practical side of it in many ways, at least for the first, getting started. But you just have to be real honest with yourself of, I understand burnout. Being burnt out is one thing, but having the drive to really go out on your own is another, and it's an irrational drive. And so I would be honest from an emotional standpoint how you evaluate that opportunity. Now, from a practical standpoint, I would obviously look at your business right now and realistically say, hey, if I'm making this amount of money part-time, and I'm only doing it because it's like more of a passive, and I don't know what your business is or, how much money it makes or not, but if you can evaluate realistically, what you think the scalability of it is when it has 100% of your attention and drive behind it to support it, really look at the numbers of what you're making and kind of map out, what your full-time investment is going to be and what the rewards are going to be. Because I love side hustles. I encourage it for a lot of people, but it's much different than being an entrepreneur running a business, because there is no options otherwise. There's no other safety nets, right? And so you just need to know and really get focused and dedicated and believe in yourself that by you going 100% full time, because in my mind that's the only way to do it, you go 100% full time and you hell or high water, you make this work. And so, and I think you can do a pro forma, you can do some forecasting. I mean, if you're analytical in that way to kind of help you get that comfort to get you more comfortable making that leap. But, it really comes down to that pitted desire and drive and knowing that you can make this work, and everything else will fall into place if you have that. And, I think you're in a bit of a head start, a little bit, being here in AO, and so you'll have the right resources to support your growth. But I would not conflate the two of being burnt out in a job that you've had for a decade versus the fantasy, or at least the grass is greener mindset of, what it could be as an entrepreneur running your own business. So that's really an internal drive that you need to be honest with yourself and evaluate from there. So I hope that helps, and good luck. All right, next question. Lysandra Wilson, question they asked: what things would you recommend I can do to get as many leads as possible and also track those leads when at a trade show? Well, background is I have a baking business that specializes in desserts for weddings and special events. We attend trade shows to increase awareness, to get leads, to offer our services for weddings. What things have you found that help get leads while at a show? And then how do you track them after the show? Do you do giveaways, offer discounts, open to all ideas? Thanks. All right, well, number one, if you're attending a trade show, the first thing we do is 100% try to get an attendee list prior to the trade show. Generally speaking, organizers of trade shows would only release that information if you're an exhibitor or you pay some type of fee. But in our experience, it's been valuable because it gives you a head start on contacting and soliciting those attendees prior to them getting to the trade show. Because anything could happen when people are travel away from their homes, they get to a trade show, they may focus for one day, and they're, the rest of the 3-day show could just be them traveling to the city that they want to, and their attention and their focus may not be as driven as what it is on that first day or when that arrival day comes. And so, number one thing to try to do is get your hands on an attendee list and sell them prior to the event, book meetings, try to, promote your business, and get the ball rolling before you're actually on the floor. The other thing that we found pretty successful in helping our clients, we develop engaging experiences for a host of brands that, whether it's at a sporting event or at a conference, what ways that you can draw people to your booth. So if you are exhibiting, what are the ways that you can incentivize folks from coming to your booth, right? And this could also be a part of your pre-marketing or your pre-solicitation to the event is, stop by booth 123 to receive a cookie, a specialty, whatever item it is, or a discount on your services and such. And so I think, being able to get the ball rolling before you're actually on the trade show floor has been paramountly successful for us. And then in terms of tracking those leads, once you get your hands on the list, you can upload that to a database or a CRM, and you can have the touch points in terms of who, if you use a MailChimp campaign, for example, you can track who's opening your emails or your newsletter or any type of marketing material that you sent out prior. And then, of course, once you're on the show, exchanging business cards. Now, I think a byproduct of COVID is these digital business card transactions where, you're tapping phones or trading information. You'll have that information digitally that you can just log and, kind of resell those folks that you met on the show thereafter. So take a look into those, and for us, it's just getting the hands on the attendee list well before the event is really has been successful. All right, next question is Roselli Akloqui. I hope I got that right. That was fun to say. Question they asked, what strategies have worked for you when engaging and interacting within online Facebook and social media groups in order to attract new clients? I have an accounting firm and we focus on small business owners. This month we joined a few groups to introduce the firm to more people looking for ideas to attract new clients. Thanks. Again, unfortunately, I don't have a traditional B2C business or online experience in terms of social media soliciting to other businesses. It's just not within our sort of core marketing or sales strategy. So I don't want to give you any advice in terms of exactly what to do. However, I do think you're doing the right thing. I mean, the more that you're out and you're online, people buy essentially from people they know, right? And so the more you're networking and, social networking, and obviously you have a lot of great mentors here in the group that have experience in that, you're doing the right thing. I think for us, with an online strategy that's worked for us in the past is, maybe even hosting your own webinar. And so if you're hosting a social group, maybe you can spin up a, Tax Thursday event or something where for 15 minutes you can do a live feed on Facebook within those groups that, you can sell your services, or not even sell, just provide advice, right? Because if you're going to give value, you're going to get value back. And so I think that could be really smart for you. And then also, in terms of other social media channels, I know, service providers on TikTok are really crushing it right now, and being able to create an online audience from their, for their services being on TikTok. And as far as a mentor goes in your field in accounting, I think Tyler Bloom is a great sort of benchmark of how to do it online. He's got a great following on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook. And so, maybe connect with him. And then obviously Sean, growing his online presence has been very successful. You'll get better strategies, but I think the theory and the philosophy of what you're doing is right. All right, another question from Roselli. How do I make a first meeting with a new contact productive? The background of your business. So the number one thing that I try to do when we have a first meeting, there's really two goals that you want to accomplish. Is one, develop a positive rapport, and two, create a needs assessment so you can learn about what their needs are as a potential client or buyer. And so the number one philosophy and rule that we adhere to is really to ask more questions to your prospect than spouting out about how great your business is and what you're doing. Because if you do that, it's a one-sided conversation, and that rapport building is not going to develop in a trustworthy fashion. And so I would be prepared as much as possible to either research that client, to ask really good questions that are relevant to make them feel that, wow, this person really knows a little bit about me, or took the time to understand my challenges on, the brief information that they've shared. But you're going to go in there really prepared and, ask the questions. And again, from a psychological standpoint, people love talking about themselves. And so when you can develop a rapport in that very first interaction or that first meeting, they're going to like you. And even though I said earlier that people buy from people they know, but they also buy from people they like, right? And so if they know and they like you, your services could be mediocre compared to others, but they still buy from you because you've really taken a special interest in the approach on how you service them, or at least handle their particular needs. So positive rapport, needs assessment. Those are the great first meeting sort of goals that we try to set that's been effective. All right, next question. Coming in from Greg Mendial. What are the best ways to create more consistent pipeline? Background, I'm a web designer and development company. I network, I get referrals from partners along with my clients, my current clients, and I get traffic through my website. That flow is not steady enough, and I'd like to figure out a way to get more leads without spending on ads. Do you have any suggestions about channels I'm missing? Well, sounds like you still need to kick it old school and do some cold calling and sales, right? You may want to investigate or research in obtaining a lead list of all of your potential buyers and in investing some, whether it's an intern or a platform that can help curate those contacts. Get a list, a prospect list essentially, of people that you don't know and they don't know you. So none of these referrals, I mean, we'll get lucky with referrals from website traffic and such, but I mean, we're talking about who your specific clientele is, who's your target audience or your market opportunity, and just get a lead list, right? And then from there, I would integrate those into what's called the CRM, or customer relationship management platform. HubSpot is the one that we use, but we have, when we were starting out, was a little bit more cost affordable, was Pipedrive. So Pipedrive or CRM like HubSpot will be able to upload all of that contact list, get the lead list in there, and it'll be able to better track your behavior and your outreach, whether it's you or your sales team. And then it'll kind of develop a pipeline, right? And so you really have to treat sales like a science in terms of the sequencing of events and how what an initial outreach looks like, what's a follow-up, and what's a third point of contact, because you constantly have to touch these new clients. And so the only way that you can manage that is with a very clear path of leads and a content management system that will help you, really track your progress or your team's progress. And, each week you can look at your statistics, your volume of calls, emails, et cetera, and you measure against that. And then, and your team. I don't know how big your team is or if it's just you at this point, but, it'll be able to set some real key KPIs. And again, I think that's the one missing thing with most sales is, early entrepreneurs, they just feel like they can go in and convince and sell, but as you grow, you really need to treat it like a science. And, to a degree, it is a numbers game, and, there's a methodology with each qualifying process. And so, if you're doing that blind or on the back of a notepad, there's no way that you'll be able to measure your success. And so I would definitely look into a CRM and lead list that will help corral your target audience, and then go out the old-fashioned way and sell. Tom Black will help you there for sure if you need any direction with scripts and a sales methodology. All right, last question here. We have Michael Wilding. Question is, which is overall a better project management platform, Trello or Monday or another? Well, background is my company is trying to decide which program management software to help us move forward faster. Monday is currently about $5 a month more than Trello. The project manager we hired has experience with Trello, but I and the other owner only have limited experience with Monday. Is one better than the other? This is a really good question. It's pretty topical too, because I've used both, right? And I think what it comes down to, as your business change, as people change, and as your team may change, the number one thing that I really try to instill is try to be agnostic. I mean, you want to be cost sensitive to what the offerings are and what your needs are, but you don't necessarily have to be dedicated to one or the other. So be agnostic in the approach, in knowing what's going to work best for the group. Right now, easily you could just instill one and just say, hey, this is what we're going to use, and people are going to be forced to use it. But I found when you add new team members, or if you get another manager or someone with experience that can educate someone, I would really lean towards what's best for the group. And Trello for us was really good for software ticketing, posting messages and such, but that was very singular to the one side of a project management that we needed, where Monday, which we just onboarded on and we're learning, kind of provides all of that. And it provides more of a, soup to nuts, cradle to grave project management system for sales, integration, marketing, software development, technical operations, and client relationships and milestones and such. So for us, there's others out there like Jira. I mean, if you're a software company, Jira, has been the gold standard for many software companies in the past. We found it to be a little overboard for what we needed, which is why Trello worked. But ultimately, we were able to bring on someone with a little bit more of a senior role that really felt strongly about Monday, sort of did a demo with the team, kind of got buy-in, and it just seems to work for everyone. So I think the biggest thing here is just figuring out, what's great for one person may not be good for 5 people. So collectively, there's going to have to be some compromise, but yeah, it is incredibly important to have a PM system or a platform like that. But I just think, what's going to be better for the group is what's going to work, and people are going to be engaged on the platform because, we've had experience in the past where, one bad apple that just can't agree with one particular management system, and, they're not integrating it, and, just because they had personal feelings on a platform, and it just blew up the whole project management change, and we had to make some changes there. So in any event, I hope that helps answer your question, but I think you're on the right path. I mean, both platforms are effective, and just try to get buy-in from the team on like where they're excited to just all use it and accomplish that goal. So in any event, that's all my time, all the questions. It was good seeing everyone. I hope this provided some value to you guys, and feel free to reach out anytime. Appreciate it. Have a great rest of the summer. Bye.